Hey everyone, it's Camden Scoggins here. This is my first live stream YouTube video that I've made. I'm just gonna let y'all know that I'm here to talk about a lot of things. Whatever y'all want to talk about. If y'all want to talk about wrestling, y'all want to talk about monster trucks, y'all want to talk about bull riding, or talk about politics, or y'all want to talk about education, or you want to talk about y'all want to talk about health, which I'm not really don't know much about health. If y'all want to know about firefighting, we're going to talk about that. Hey, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, there's nothing that can come through my head at the moment of what to say or what to talk about. If y'all want to, whatever y'all want to talk about, I mean, if y'all got any questions, I mean, just give me a shout. I can be doing some Monster Jam events, or probably doing any of the local independent shows, like that has already been streaming here on YouTube for the last number of years, or probably since YouTube first launched. I can probably play some previous videos of Monster Jam or any other monster truck event going on. I could commentate. But whatever y'all like to do. Whatever y'all want to talk about, just give me a holler. So, I may not get much viewers on here. I mean, because, since I'm new to YouTube, I got my own YouTube channel right here. If there's any wrestlers or anything like that, like if there's any celebrities, like if there's any movie stars, or if there's any wrestlers or monster truck drivers, or if there's any professional models, or anything like that wants to give me a shout, anybody from any other podcasts, like if y'all want to invite me on to y'all shows, because I got a lot in common that I do want to talk about. And I'm just gonna let y'all know that I'm a future monster truck driver myself. I mean, I don't own a monster truck business. I don't have a driver's license or a vehicle, because it's going to take some time and money for that to come around. It might be a couple years or so. But we can talk about a lot of things, Just give me a shout. We can talk about a lot of stuff. If y'all want to talk about, what's your favorite place to eat, where's your favorite hotel you like to stay at when you're on vacation, if you want to talk about going on a cruise, how good or bad your experiences were on that cruise, How was your experience visiting another country outside the United States? And plus, I do spend a lot of my time, writing down hotels and restaurants and lots of other stuff off of Google Maps. I got them all written down because there's a lot of these cities I have written down, and a lot of these venues that can bring in packed crowds. And that's the thing. I'm thinking about when I become a driver myself, a monster truck driver myself one day, that I'm thinking about selling a lot of tickets and bringing in massive crowds to all these arenas and stadiums. Um, I don't like the way Monster Jam is going these days. I don't like the way Feld is actually running Monster Jam. We need to bring back all the old school random obstacles that we miss seeing to this day. Like there's the school buses, there's the vans, there's the rock piles, there's the crush cars. You don't see these trucks flying over anymore, and that's what made Monster Jam popular. I mean, why can we have some old school tracks like we had back in the day? Like you have all these whoop sections, and you have all these rollers. You have quad wars and truck and tractor pulling and stadium motocross and demolition derby. Stuff like that were added to these monster truck events. I mean, you miss those old school U-turn style tracks. Like you'll leave the line, you go over the cars, you make that first turn, then you come straight down again, you make that final turn, and you just give that truck gas and just let it fly over the cars and across the finish line. I mean, we miss those days. It's time to bring all that back. And if there's anywhere in the world where there's never been a monster truck event held before, I got that all written down. Everything. If there's other parts of the world where there's never been a monster truck event held at before, when I get things going for myself, it's all going to happen. We can bring monster trucks to any of our U.S. territories outside the main land, outside the main land of the United States. Like I know that the only territory outside the mainland that allows monster trucks is Puerto Rico. But when was the last time has there been any monster truck events going on in any other U.S. territories that never held monster trucks at? And plus, any island countries outside the United States, it's a possibility. But any of the territories, any of our U.S. territories, other than Puerto Rico, like if you got the U.S. Virgin Islands, or you have American Samoa, you have Guam or the Mariana Islands, why not bring monster trucks there? And Johnston Atoll, which is another U.S. territory that's actually unincorporated, which is abandoned, it's not open to the public, and last time it's ever been used was probably in World War II. It's nice to renovate that island. And I know there's an airbase out there that there's nothing out there except an old runway. And there's probably some plants and probably some seabirds flying around that island. It's probably not too far away from Hawaii, but I think it's time to bring all that back. I mean, I think it's time to start bringing monster truck events to any territories like that. And if you want to bring monster trucks to any other island countries, like if you want to bring them to Aruba or bring them to, let's say, the U.S. Virgin Islands or Bermuda or the Turks and Caicos, that's a possibility. or it can be the Marshall Islands. Who knows? And bringing back some of the old school names and monster trucks, like you can just build some brand new frames and chassis and trying to bring the old school names back. If there's any old school names that have only been named, like you might have on old metal based trucks that competed back in the 80s at the beginning of the sport, since Bigfoot was the first truck that actually started the car crushing. Do you think it's time to build some new chassis and um, probably just name the truck after the original? And if you want to name your new truck after a ride truck, or if you want to name it after an old metal based truck, or if you want to name it after a die cast that doesn't even exist right now, you want to name it after a RC Mold Control monster truck, that can all happen. Like there's a lot of names out there that don't even exist to this day as a truck that can be so competitive, whether it's racing and freestyle, and you're only using that name for a ride truck. It's not That's not right. And Jack Cobarno that owned Cyborg and Tough Enough, and plus he owned Surf Monster, which used to be the former Monster Bus ride truck at the time. Do you think it's time to even build a new Monster Bus truck? Do you think it's time to build a new Monster Bus monster truck and name it after the ride truck, and then trying to build a teammate truck and trying to name that the Monster Bus after the Monster Bus ride truck became the Surf Monster ride truck? It's a possibility. It's all possibility. Um, but back to what I was saying, when I get things going for myself, I'm gonna make sure all this happens. I'm gonna make sure that all the old school stuff will make a comeback to Monster Jam. No more of these dirt pod design tracks in the arenas. Like you have a pod in the center of the arena where you got ramps at different angles where you can do sky wheelies and all that. Sky wheelies are fine, and doing backflips are fine too. But you don't want. But who says that the only way you could win freestyle is to do a backflip? But why can't you just win freestyle just by just getting big air and doing donuts and doing wheelies and stuff like that? While to this day, you can only do a backflip to win freestyle. Like, come on. I mean, in failed, you can do a whole lot better. Okay. I mean, I love Monster Jam. I always loved Monster Jam. I think it's time for some of the trucks that you own to be owned by one person and one person only. And to me, if I was working with y'all, if I competed at any of y'all shows, I ain't gonna be no Monster Jam driver. I'm gonna be an independent driver, and whatever name I come up with for any of my trucks, and not to be honest, I might be the only independent driver driving a Monster Jam truck. I mean, just to fill in for one of the drivers if they're, like if they're out, like if they're sick or they're injured or if they had a family emergency and a loved one in one of their families have passed away, yeah, I will fill in for that driver. But in the meantime, I will have my own truck. I mean, and if I were you, If you don't do a better job, if things don't go back to the way they were before all this dirt pod nonsense and these trucks are just racing around the arena and you're treating these trucks like they just run on dirt, like they're just doing dirt track racing without any crushed cars added to the race lanes, not doing that. No, y'all need to bring back the old school tracks. Like bring back the motocross jumps. Like bring back the motocross dirt jumps. Uh, bring back the van stacks. Bring back the crushed cars. Bring back the jammer stacks. And I had to tell y'all this, but the crowd is not interacting that much. Like you don't hear much of the crowd cheering. The crowd needs to be cheering like there's a football game going on. That's how electric the fans should get. The fans should be getting loud and getting electrifying and trying to get into the action. The only way to do that is to fill up the arenas and fill up the stadiums and get them as loud as they can get, like it does when it's football season going on, or when it's baseball season, or if it's basketball season, or if it's hockey or soccer, or if it's NASCAR. And I hate to tell you this, if y'all go to a speedway, like if y'all go to Atlanta Motor Speedway and Hampton, Georgia, which is outside of Atlanta, y'all need, if I were y'all, I will bring in a big crowd out there. If I have to bring in 125,000 people to Atlanta Motor Speedway, if it can get that electric and get that loud when it comes to NASCAR, hey, we can have a big old fan base like that from Monster Jam. And if Monster Jam had any, if Monster Jam was at another speedway like Las Vegas Motor Speedway, but not on the dirt track, but like on the main NASCAR track made of asphalt, like if y'all can have monster trucks out there, if I probably would bring in 200,000 people to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And whatever the capacity is at other speedways, whatever the amount of people that those speedways hold, I'm going to bring in that same amount. And no matter how many people the stadiums can hold or how many the arenas can hold, I'm going to make sure that the entire arena and the entire stadium, like, every seat's going to be taken. Like, it's going to be packed all the way up to the brim. Like, you don't want no more, like, you don't want to see any empty seats up in the second and third decks. And you might have probably a couple thousand people showing up, but no, you want the place to be entire packed and sold out. And that's what I'm planning on doing. Just to make sure. And now, those of you I'm going to say this to the entire world, and probably most people might agree with me, and some may not agree with me, that y'all probably cannot bring back all the random obstacles like going out to the junkyard and picking out the crushed cars, or picking out a school bus, or picking out a van, or picking out an RV or a boat to an airplane or whatever. And then if I were y'all, the only time that y'all can use any dumpsters, y'all can add some dumpsters probably at every corner of the stadium and put some plastic on them. That's fine. But do me a favor, if I was a competitor right now, and if I'm not a competitor and I'm just a fan at the moment, bring back the old school tracks. And Speed Channel needs to make a comeback to live television. And Speed Channel what has made Monster Jam very, very famous. And I would love to see all the old school names that don't even compete in Monster Jam to this day. I would like to see names like Barefoot and Bigfoot and Monster Patrol and Reptoid and Predator and UFO and, you know, all those names make a comeback in Monster Jam. I mean, I know that just some of those that I just mentioned, they're still around. Like Bigfoot still around, Monster Patrol is still around, Predator is still around, Reptoid is still around, USA One is still around, and Barely Tame is still around. And but if there's other names out there that have retired, I think it's time for those names to come out of retirement. Some names that have retired that are just metal-based trucks. And I'm not talking about Outlaw and No Problem. Y'all did the Tough Tracks, Unfinished Business. You had Buffalo Trimmer, you had Nightlife, you had No Problem, you had Outlaw. You had all those old school names from back in the day. Hey, they can make a comeback. They can compete in Monster Jam. They can compete in other independent Monster Jam promotions outside of Monster Jam. And some of the independents that have recently made their debut in Monster Jam, like Quad Chaos and Tailgater and Dirt Crew, and just to name a few, and Pretty Wicked and Barely Tame, and you probably want to see more of them compete in Monster Jam more often. I know that you got only the independents that compete in Monster Jam more often, like you got Avenger, and you got Reminiscence, you got Reminator, you got Saigon Shaker. But any other independents that I just mentioned, some that have been in the sport for a long time, and those have not been in the sport that long, I think it's time to bring those names back. And other names like Priority One, Mike Dropic. I think that's his name, that drove Barefoot in Seattle in 1999, and Rod Smith drove Monster Patrol that night. And then Equalizer, all these names I just mentioned, they just need to make a comeback. The monster truck industry is not the same. So what about we do it like this? Why don't you let any of the Monster Jam drivers, like any of the failed drivers, compete at some of the independent shows from time to time? And why don't you let any of the independent drivers that barely compete in Monster Jam these days, or have never competed in Monster Jam at all, let them make their first experience, their first debut, make their first impression or whatever. Like, let them, give them a chance to shine. Like, let them win freestyle, or let them win racing on their first night competing in Monster Jam. Come on. And then Dennis Anderson, I know he just debuted at King Sling, I think just a couple years ago. And I think I'll be shocked if we have both Gravedigger and King Sling competing in Monster Jam. And now Dennis, I would see Dennis not just freestyling that truck, Dennis can freestyle that truck out on the track, like with some fans that have appreciated what he has really accomplished throughout his career. But and it's okay for him to just to drive Kingsling around in circles like you do in a ride truck, and and he can still can give fans ride like during the pit parties. But when it comes to action, he needs to drive that truck into the stadium the way he has the way that he has driven toward Gravedigger up for so many years throughout his career, the way he has drove throughout his career behind piloting Gravedigger, he can do exactly that with King Sling. You know, I want to see King Sling get all teared up. I mean, just like you see with like we have seen with Gravedigger and all the other trucks. And then some Monster Jam names that need to make a day that need to come out of retirement. Let's say Blacksmith needs to come out of retirement. Power Ford needs to come out of retirement. Superman needs to come out of retirement. The old Hot Wheels truck that Neil Elliott and Phil Foster and Eldon Debut and all those guys that drove Hot Wheels over the years. To me, I will bring Hot Wheels back as a 1999 Ford Super Duty F350 or F250. And bring Bob and Tom back. You know, I would see Bob and Tom as the teammate truck to Hot Wheels. I mean, Hot Wheels doesn't have to make a comeback as a Monster Jam truck, as a Monster Jam owned truck. I mean, Hot Wheels can make a comeback as an independent. I mean, I would buy out the Hot Wheels truck, and it will still be competing to this day, even if Hot Wheels has its own live monster truck event now. It's just because they have their own monster truck event. That does not mean that Hot Wheels. That does not mean Hot Wheels cannot sponsor Monster Jam and still have their own monster truck tour all at the same time. I mean, that's a possibility. And then you got Spin Master, which are now selling all these die-cast toys. And some of the names that I probably forgot to mention that don't even exist as the real thing, it's a possibility to make a debut with one of those names and make them as competitive as they can be. I mean, you don't have to use those names just for ride trucks, but use them to pilot and compete. I mean, to drive throughout competition. I mean, like you got names like Riveted. You got names like Primeval. You got names like Cremator. I mean, you got all these names like Super Trucker, which Super Trucker is a ride truck, but why not build a brand new Super Trucker that can just compete instead of having just one Super Trucker as a ride truck? I mean, because I think Super Trucker is probably an independent owned ride truck, but it's a possibility that we could see a new Super Trucker being debuted. Whoever owns the name can build a brand new one, and it can just debut. I mean, I know it's like a 1940s Peterbilt body style, and if I was driving Super Trucker, I probably would choose it to be a front engine truck. And just like if I drove Monster Patrol, and I drove that 2005 Ford F-150 version of Monster Patrol. Kurt Daphne drove in McAllen, Texas in 2005 on an episode of Monsters of Destruction. I could bring back that 2005 F-150 body with the flames on it. There's nothing wrong seeing Gravedigger and Monster Patrol having spooky flames on the front. So there's three trucks I would not have a problem seeing with spooky flames on the front. It doesn't matter if it's Monster Patrol, it doesn't matter if it's Gravedigger, and it does not matter if it's Identity Theft. And Identity Theft is an independent owned truck. But to me, I think it's a possibility we could see a Gravedigger and Identity Theft matchup in Monster Jam or any of the independents outside of Monster Jam. And as I said before, everything I just talked about for the last probably 25 minutes or so, it's going it's a possibility, and it's going to come all going to and it's all going to come to a close, okay? It's going to be official one day that there will be some changes to Monster Jam and the monster truck industry throughout in the rest of the monster truck industry. But I'm going to tell you this right now: everything that the fans miss seeing back in the day, what's wrong to this day, like here's what's here's what I don't understand about freestyle. Okay, now I've already talked about like the dirt pods and stuff like that, and the crush cars and the van stacks and all that that have not been added back onto the track in so many years. And then the Christmas trees and the swimming pools and the garbage trucks and the cargo containers and the rock piles and the fountains and tabletops and stuff like that needs to all make a comeback. But what I don't like, what I don't like, that every time the truck breaks during freestyle, like if an axle collapses, or if an axle collapses, or if a wheel breaks off, or if, or 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 anything like that, like any part of the truck that breaks, if the truck breaks, just let the driver continue on with its run. Let 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 the driver just keep going and going and going until the truck can't go no more. I mean, you can't just shut the truck off and then just end the run. It's okay to shut the truck off for USHRA safety reasons. Um, but if I were you, let that driver refire the truck and just let the truck keep going until the truck cannot go no more. I mean, even with and there's nothing wrong continuing on with your freestyle with a broken truck, and that's what the fans love. And the fans really get into it and react to the performance, and they enjoy it. And the fans even enjoyed it, even if the truck goes over during the racing bracket. Like if you go too tight in the turn and the truck goes up on two wheels and then it goes over on its side or it goes over on its roof, hey. Or if a wheel breaks off during racing, like after the truck gets so much air off that last set of cars, and when the truck lands and the wheel breaks off, just like we did see back in the late '90s in St. Louis and probably in other locations. If we see, I mean, the fans will get into it today if that was a possibility. And then we need to have someone piloting Blue Thunder. Uh, you can't just have somebody piloting and driving Blue Thunder overseas. Whenever you have Monster Jam overseas, then that's the only time that Blue Thunder will compete. But Blue Thunder needs to be competing more often back here in the States too. I mean, I know you've seen likes of Todd LeDuc driving Blue Thunder. I know you've seen. I don't know who else have drove Blue Thunder so far this year besides Todd LeDuc. And I know that other drivers that have drove Blue Thunder over the years before Todd LeDuc. I know it was George Belhan, it was Tony Farrell, it was Lyle Hancock, Lindsey Wing, guys like that. And to me, I wouldn't mind driving Blue Thunder. I don't have a problem driving Blue Thunder at all. It's just that, but hey, I All I can say is to y'all failed. Bring Blue Thunder. Find another driver that can pilot Blue Thunder uh, from to several Monster Jam events across the United States. Please bring back other names like Power Forward, and bring back Superman, and bring back Blacksmith, and bring back Bulldozer too. No, I mean, and then bring back that original Dragon body when Dragon first debuted it. I mean, what I don't like are these new 3D concept bodies that you have. Okay? What I don't like on Spider-Man, and what I don't like on Dragon, and what I don't like on Monster Mutt, you need to bring the old bodies back. I would prefer the old bodies over these brand new 3D all state-of-the-art concept bodies. Just bring the old bodies back. Monster Jam was better off with the old bodies on some of these trucks. And so, tell me what you guys think. Just subscribe. Just subscribe. Just leave me a comment below in the comment section below. Press that subscribe button. Just let me know what y'all's thoughts are. Y'all can agree with me or disagree with me. This is Camden Scoggins signing off. Peace.